And well, for more on this, our correspondent Dasuni Athoda is joining us live from Colombo on the broadcast. Hi Dasuni, polls have opened in Sri Lanka and this is the first opportunity that the Sri Lankans have to choose their leaders after the economic downturn and the chaos that ensued in 2022. What is the mood like on the ground right now?
Well, a very good morning to all our viewers. Polling just began here in Sri Lanka. And as you can see, even though it just began a mere few minutes ago, there appears to be a steady flow of voters who seem to be coming in to this polling station to cast their vote. Now, keep in mind, there are 17 million registered voters in total who will be going to over 13,000 polling stations across the island to select the country's ninth executive president. It is sure to be a very pivotal election here in Sri Lanka, especially like you rightfully mentioned, that this is the first big election Sri Lanka is having after a very terrible economic crisis that took place in the country in 2022.
Dasuni, as you mentioned, that the Sri Lankans have started flocking to the polling booths there. A total of 38 contestants are running for the president's post, the highest number ever recorded in Sri Lanka. Give us a rundown as to who are the top contenders.
Well, like you said, this is a record number of candidates. 39 at the start, now dropped to 38. This is Sri Lanka's longest ballot paper, which has been displayed at all gates at these polling stations. So voters do have an idea on where they can place their vote. In terms of the frontrunners, unlike previous elections, this is quite a unique one, where it is not a purely two-horse race, where we are looking at four prominent candidates. That includes the current president, Ranil Wickremesinghe, the leader of the Samagi Jana Balawega and the leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, as well as the leader of the National People's Power Movement, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, as well as son of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, namely Namal Rajapaksa. So it will be a four-pronged race between these four frontrunners.
Dasuni, there are also two monks who are participating in the election race there in Sri Lanka. But I want to talk to you more about the gender balance within the contestant list. There is no woman representation in the presidential elections in Sri Lanka today. What perhaps could be the reasons for a lack of women representation in Sri Lankan politics?
Yes, this is an all-male dominated affair. All 38 candidates are male, which means there are no females contesting for the post of president. Keep in mind, Sri Lanka did deliver the world's first female prime minister. A majority of factors, chief of them being economical issues and blocks, along with cultural blocks, are the main reason for females to stop coming in as candidates.
Dasuni, if you can just show us more about where you're standing right now and what is the on-ground situation like in Sri Lanka as the polls have just opened.
Yes, so what you see right behind me is a temple in the suburbs of Colombo. So a majority of these 13,000 polling stations will be temples, places of worship, and schools, which means each electorate will be having a local area school or a place of worship in which voters can come and cast their vote from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m. Each of them will be having their own ballot card and they can enter, speak to the election officials, cast their vote, and like you just saw, leave the premises.
Dasuni, the voting will close at 4 p.m. Local time today. While economy takes the center stage, what are the other issues that dominates the polls today?
Well, it is clear that there is a voting undercurrent that is expecting massive change in the form of tax reliefs and reduced costs of living, which is why the current president has been saying it is a difficult period for Sri Lanka, especially post-2022, given that Sri Lanka's economic crisis was purely because previous regimes reduced taxes and increased government coffers, which is why a lot of people are not in favor of these policies and are wishing for change, while a certain few feel that it is absolutely necessary for the current president to remain in the helm for another term for the sake of stability. Keep in mind, just 2 years ago, the situation was quite different when we reported of shortages of fuel and gas, along with mobs of protesters that infiltrated many government buildings.
Suni, thank you for joining us. We'll of course be tracking the Sri Lankan polls very closely with you here on WION.